Oh,
And we're
man.
live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to an evening with Jim Gallucci. My name is Laura Highfill. I'm the library leader at South County Regional Library, here tonight with Eric Hartman, librarian at South County as well, and our metal artist, Jim Gallucci, who has done a fantastic job with the public art at South County Regional. People love it. So welcome, Jim. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Oh, thank you for asking me. This is a real treat. I'm so used to watching somebody else on YouTube or something. So, yeah, let's talk.
Well, I got to ask, my first question is, who is Jim Gallucci and how long have you been creating art?
Oh gosh, all right. Well, look, I've been doing this since October 23rd, 1969, when I saw my first person making sculpture. That was 10:30 in the morning. I knew exactly the time of the day. And I saw this person. It turned out to be my teacher later on. It was her first year teaching. It was my first year as a freshman. And I said, I just got to know everything there is about that. And I'm still learning. I'm still searching and finding and learning more. So, gosh, how many years is that? That's over 50 years, isn't it?
That's a lot of years.
Yeah.
That is pretty awesome. So I know you told me earlier how you got started in metalwork. Can you share that story with us?
Yeah. When I saw her name was Jacqueline. She was the sculpture teacher. When I saw her sculpting a Madonna and Child, she says, "Oh, come back tomorrow. I'll tell you more. I have to go teach a class." And I used to go every day after class and ask her about sculpture, and she told me about books to read, and I mean, I just totally threw myself into this whole idea of sculpture. And that summer, I went home because I got in some sculpture classes, and I was reading books about making stone carving tools. And my uncle gave me a little forge and a little anvil. And I went up in the garage and I found my grandfather's horseshoeing hammer. And I'm there pounding out in the driveway all day. And, it was June and it was hot. And my dad comes home and he goes, "What are you doing?" I says, "Well, I'm trying to make these tools." I showed him the book and he looks and goes, "Oh, you're doing it all wrong. Wait. And he took a fresh piece of steel, banked it, the coals, cranked it up, got it hot, hit it 2-3 times, turned it over, hit it 2-3 times. And he looked at me, he says, "Is this what you're trying to do?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, how'd you do that?" "I spent 2.5 hours trying to do that." He goes, "Oh, I used to be a blacksmith." I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" Well, he came to this country when he was 13 from Italy. And when you're 9, you start your apprenticeship. And he started it with the village blacksmith. So in 2000, oh God, what was it? 17, we went back to Italy. We went back to my dad's hometown. We even found the shop that he learned in. And there was another gentleman there. His name was Leonardo Gallucci. And he also was a blacksmith. So anyways, we'd swap stories in Italian and everything.
Wow.
I guess I was supposed to do this.
It definitely seems like it. That's a great backstory, and just it runs in your family. It's in your blood.
Yeah, iron is in our blood. We can put a T-shirt on that
one. In more ways than one. So, what inspired you to create the artwork for South County? Open book, open mind.
Well, we were given 3. To begin with, I was shortlisted just for people to understand how the public art projects work. I was one of 3 people that were asked to give presentations of ideas.
Mhm.
And there were 3 sites that they had in mind. And well, actually, there were 4, but they narrowed it down to 3. And I finally came down to, I said, I really think you need something great out here. The whole area was going to change. There were blueprints. The direction of the driveway was going to change. The center median was going to become more of a plaza than just, grass there. And I said, well, let's really do something with that. And that's where I began my idea. And then we had a public hearing where, I presented the ideas and people looked at it and said, wow, this is really great. Can we put some book titles on it? Originally, it was just supposed to be pages. They were kind of floating above you. And I said, book titles, great idea. And with that, people gave all these different suggestions. And then we even opened it up. The library did a search for the title, and which I thought, open book, open mind. I go, wow, I got some other sculptures you can help me title. So if you would like a job, we can help you out. So that got us to really getting the concept together. And then from there, we had to work with the landscape architects, the engineers. We had to make sure, it could stand up with all the forces of nature and all the other things that we had to worry about. And once we got through all that, and that was all the design phase, we were then finally ready to get to fabricate. And once you start fabricating, it's ironic. Oh my gosh, it takes years to get the financing to put a building up, and the contractor will put it up in 6 months. And it's the same is true in public art. Then COVID stepped in. It took us almost 2 years to get to that point where, yes, okay, we can go ahead and do it. And we got the final approval and everything, and we worked right from June right to that was the end of September. Yeah. So again, it was getting all these things in order and in the right way, and making sure all the approvals were done, and modifications and changes, and oh no, there's a light there. Oh, I didn't know there was a light there.
Right.
Having the light moved, but that's true with all projects. That's just the complexity of our lives are very complex, and we require a lot of complex things. So this is just part of life now.
This might be a good point to show the slides.
Yeah, let's do that. Here we go.
So can you walk through this?
Yeah, this is a little PowerPoint. Let's go to the first slide. And these are the arches. We had to do all of the welding on them, and you can see the big heavy plates, and we had to have anchor bolt holes put in and all that. And then we started assembling it. So we basically engineered it all, made the parts, but then we had to do kind of the final assembly. Go to the next slide, you'll see it better. Here we are actually, erecting it. We had to set everything up one at a time. Do you realize we have 2 cantilevered arches, and that's kind of a problem. This is part of the tension of the piece, which it's kind of cool. It actually comes through how that works. So the 2 halves had to be joined together. It had to be lifted at the right attitude. And then we had connectors that go together with that. We go to the next slide. You can see. And here we are. And you can see we've been progressing all the way down and welding and connecting parts and getting the whole thing to make sure it fits and falls in the right places, because those little bases had to fit on a footing that was cast. So, we had a little bit of play there, but not a lot. So anyways, next slide. Here's some, these are the pages that go on top. And first thing we had to do was each one had a title with an author, and it had to be cut out. So we CNC'd all that. Then we had to sand them all. Then we had to put them in a roller and give them a little curl, like they were floating pages. And then we sent them off to the powder coater. Here, go to the next one. All right, here we are. Oh, you can see here, we had to position all of these. We had to figure out where the tabs were in each one. A lot of it was, we sort of had a good idea on the plan, but then we actually got up there and we said, oh, that's an empty spot. Or composition-wise, it wasn't working real well. I mean, we really had to sculpt it. I mean, it wasn't like making a car where all the parts are going to fit. We had to modify and shift some things around to really keep the composition of the piece. What I was really looking for was the elegance of it. You know, so often something like this gets real clunky because you've engineered the heck out of it, but you forgot about the elegance of it. So we're always looking for those things. Next slide. And here you can see we started at one end and went to the other. We also had to note how we assembled it, and we had to note how we disassemble it, because when we brought it on site, we had to go all the way back to one, because this bolt fits here and that bolt fits over there. We had to really make a note how everything went back together. A little secret: we couldn't fire anybody in the shop because they knew where everything belonged. We wouldn't fire them, but we always kid about that. Well, you can't quit now. You know where the bolts are.
So that's a question. How many people were working on this at one time with you?
Oh God, we had 4 people.
Okay.
Well, at the time when we were doing this, we had 8 people working in the shop, and it was. And then when COVID hit, we had to do a layoff because we saw work slacking off. But we still had 4 people working on this every day. By the way, there's some technical issues here too. If you can think of the hoops, those are stainless steel, but the pages are aluminum. So we had to take aluminum and attach it to stainless. And to do that, you really have to use a mechanical fastener. And that's why you got to know where the bolts are, and where to put them. And also on which side of the tab does it go. So we had to engrave everything, mark everything. If ever it has to be taken apart, there's a little tour guide of parts and which one you take off first and which gets put back on last and all that. But that's not going to happen soon, so we don't have to worry about that. Go to the next slide. Oh, here's a good shot. It really sees how and we had to fly pieces in from on top and kind of figure out how they look, and then we had to step back and look at it, and oh, there's a big hole there. Let's shove it over a ½ inch. No, let's go 6 inches. No. We're going to have to put a different piece there, and then we would rearrange and modify it. So that's part of the sculpting process. That's just, it's no different than putting clay when you're doing a bust. Each bit of clay is as important to create the face. Each piece of that metal has a purpose, where it should go, and it should scream the aesthetic that you're searching for. So it's it may be abstract, but it's no different than doing figurative art. Go to the next one. Yeah, this shows some more of the cutouts. And what's really cool is some of these, when you look up, they will read, and some of them will read backwards. So when the sun comes through, they will read on the ground. So there's a combination of things that happen there that are really, I think it becomes a discovery. When art can keep revealing itself, then you have gone in the right direction. And there's Quinn back there, and there's Chris way back with the green hat. They were the 2 that Quinn became our lead welder on this because he was able to do all the aluminum welding, and he also did the stainless welding. And Chris was back there; he did all the CNC work, and he also did all the graphic work, the preliminary work, where we did computer designs and where we had to modify it and change it all around. So they were really the two leads on that. And then we had, 3 other people that would just, come in and sanding and helping and carrying. And it takes lots of hands.
Yeah. One of the things that I've enjoyed pointing out to customers when they're underneath it looking up is looking at the different titles and the fonts that you used.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Chris goes, well, let me look for another one. This doesn't quite match it. And he'd be scratching his head and he's going through, font list. He goes, oh, this is it. This is the one. I go, yeah, you got it. Because that's those little details that make it wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
That, some of this is taken right from the titles of the book,
Right.
The graphics. But some of it we had to invent because they didn't have that kind of graphics on some of the older books. And that's okay. We gave it our own flair.
Mm-hmm. It's gorgeous. Do we have another slide?
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Yes. Oh,
Okay, here's the tedious work. They're just sanding. They got to sand and grind and sand. All the surfaces had to be prepped for powder coating. They had to be DA sanded, and that is just giving a little bit of roughness to that aluminum surface, so that when the powder coat is put on and baked on, it has a little bit of grip for it and to hold better.
mm-hmm.
Go to the next one.
Mm.
All right, they just came back from the powder coat. This is a sculpture too. We got it back and we looked at it and how it was crated up, and we go, ooh, what do we call this? Index cards. We were so intrigued by the color. Oh, that's the other thing that we were so surprised. We were following your color palette and we didn't even realize it. And it was mentioned to us, and we stood back and we were like, my God, you're right. And it wasn't intentional. It was just subliminal. It was, this is something that we wanted to bring into it, and it turned out to be your color palette. So
Right.
There it is again. I think that's why these work so wonderful. These are just 4 by 8 foot. Yeah, 4 by 8 foot, 1/4 inch aluminum sheets that have a little bit of curl and some writing on it. But when positioned and placed in the right way, they activate and come alive. Let's see another one here. Yeah, here we are installing. Whew, man, there were bulldozers going back and forth and paving trucks tearing up the paving, and we're in the middle of it. But it worked out real well. And here is, again, we had to fly all this stuff in. You got to remember, we had a bridge crane in the shop. For this, we had our knuckle boom, and we had to, if you could think of it, we had to get the axis of the plane in the right way. So we had to bring it in and kind of fly it in and match holes and find the other hole. And yeah, it was 5 days out there doing that.
5 days of reconstructing it?
Assembling it out there, And, we had some logistics too. We tried to bring it in a sequence. So like you saw, there were 2 pallets. Mm-hmm. Well, you didn't want to bring the stuff that goes on top first. We needed the stuff that was on the bottom first. So we had it all numbered that we brought it, and then we went sequentially in that reverse order of how we created it.
But even before that, did your crew have to put up the arches and?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, the arches all had to be. Yeah, that took us a day. Well, actually, it was 2 days.
And the cement footers were already poured for that?
They were already poured.
Mhm.
Well, we had a couple issues there, but we worked it through. Well, we were hitting rebar. We had to set anchor bolts.
Oh,
What was it? 15 inches deep. And you're drilling with a 15-inch rotor hammer, and we get down at 13 inches, and it stopped. And we go, what's going on? So we had to clean it out and go get another bit, and we wore the bit out, and then we did it again. And then each hole had to be vacuumed out and brushed out and vacuumed out, and the inspector had to watch us do it and make sure that we filled it with epoxy, and then we put a stainless steel 3/4 inch anchor bolt that sunk down in there, and we had to let it set for about 20 minutes to a half hour, and then we could tighten them up.
wow. The things that I did not realize goes into all of the beforehand.
Yeah, and all that gets buried. You don't see any of it.
Right.
It's all under, it's under the grade, which we designed it that way. We didn't, that's the mechanics of making it work, but you don't want to flaunt that. you just want it. You want it to look elegant, and that's more utilitarian. So.
Well, I got to tell you, we have seen so many kids climbing it.
Oh
I'm
God.
glad to hear. I'm very glad to hear it's so well seated in there.
Oh, well, that was a big question. And, I think we sent pictures of us walking on top of it, and everybody stopped asking questions. They knew it was safe enough for that.
Mhm.
The kids are climbing it.
Oh, they're trying.
Oh, yeah. All right.
You put anything out, especially
they're hanging on that pole upside down, right? Yeah. Yeah. What is it about poles and kids? They all go, what is
It's
that?
inviting. It's inviting, and they want to touch the pages.
Well, can we give them binoculars?
It's a very hands-on library here.
Well, okay.
Mhm.
Oh, let's go to the next slide. Let's see what we got. Oh, this shows more of how we're placing everything there.
Mhm.
All right.
Below and above. Mhm.
Yeah. And to the next. Oh, there it is, finished.
That's it.
No time. No, it was easy.
Okay, so I know you mentioned it. How long exactly, like from past the idea, but from when you first started cutting metal or whatever you first started doing to this point?
When we first started cutting metal, which were the arches, that was June. It was beginning of June.
June 2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got the green light on everything, and we started on that. We still had to do the whole, COVID distancing, and half the time when we're welding this stuff, we're wearing respirators. So it's like, well, just keep the respirator on, and away we go. We also have a big shop. You can see how big it is. So there was a lot of airflow and everything. So it was pretty protected.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, my workers were just terrific. They paid attention. They stayed in that, bubble. If they went somewhere, they said, look, I met with some friends. I think everything's okay, but, and we just paid attention to all that. And we just were real careful.
Mm-hmm.
But we were able to work. And the beauty, again, installing this in October, it was outside. And that was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the mask mandates for this too, but outside, we did our best with it.
So do you have, I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but do you have other public art in Charlotte?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
are fans of this?
Yeah. Do you know where Central Avenue is?
Yes.
Okay, there's Briar Creek. There's a bridge there, and we did the handrails for it. And again, that's one of those interesting stories. because we got the commission. Oh my God, it was way back in 2007, 2008 when we did it. It was 2008 we did it. And actually, we started it in 2006, and we didn't get it done to 2008 because it was supposed to be in a different place, and it got moved around. And then we were going to do it on the bridge, and then the DOT got involved, and they says, "Hold on, if you're going to do a handrail, I think we need to put the guard rail, which is a they call it, it's like a Jersey barrier, so if a car hits it, it can veer off." Well, all that, it was like 2 years later, we got it done, and then the pandemic hit. So, no, I'm sorry, not the pandemic. It was the stock market crash. Yeah,
right.
The stock market crash in 2009.
Right.
So we had that one finished. But I'll tell you another good story. In fact, if you watch the Oprah Network, there is a series called Delilah, and they featured my sculpture in one of the shots.
Say the name of the series again.
Delilah.
Delilah.
Yeah, it's like a little mini series about two lawyers, and it features all the art of Charlotte and my sculpture out there by the green where the books are stacked. Mm-hmm. We did that in, oh my God, that was 2002. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, they shot a scene in front of it, and I get a call from Paramount. They go, "Hey, are you the sculptor?" I go, "Yeah, can we use it?" I go, "Whoa, what do you mean use it? You're going to pay me?" They go, "Yeah, we're going to pay you." I go, "Hey, this is great. Which other ones do you want to do? Do you know about the library?" And they go, "No, we don't."
So anyway. you've got three. Are there more than three of your sculptures in Charlotte?
Well, there was a fourth one there, but I got a call one day. It was the business had moved out. It was an insurance company, and it was down in South Park. And I got a call from the landlord that said, "Do you want your sculpture back?" We're going to take it to the scrapyard. And we went down, grabbed it, and put it on a trailer and brought it back home. So they just didn't want to move it. But that was actually one of my first commissions I did, public commissions, and that was back in 1982.
Oh,
that was a $15,000 commission.
So you've been creating art in North Carolina
since 1977.
Okay, and you are based in Greensboro, right?
Greensboro, yeah, we're still in Greensboro, yeah.
How many pieces of public art do you have in Greensboro? I'm just being curious here.
Well, some people say too many. I say not enough. But we have the Millennium Gate in downtown Greensboro, where we celebrated the millennium. That's where we had over 20 artists participate in being a part of that. Also, we have one, it's called Gateway, and it's in front of the Crumley Law Building. We also have several pieces all around town. If you go to the old Henry Hotel, Green Valley Grill, we did all the work inside that. Let me think. Oh, I know there's more. Montessori School has some of my benches. I mean, there's a whole host of things out there that in Greensboro. And like I said, we can use more. I think the city needs more. Have you ever heard my theory about bronze sculptures and the Greek and Romans? It was a form of détente. And the reason why I say this is because when you enter the city, the avenue as you entered were lined with bronze sculptures. Very few of them have survived today. And the only reason why we know of their existence is from shipwrecks, where we've found them and we go, wow, these are pretty magnificent. It was my one about you guys. What is so cool about it is I believe it was a form of détente where a neighboring rival city, as they entered, they counted the number of bronze sculptures that were there. And they said, you know how many swords they could melt down in a month and make out of this?
Oh.
Because if you made the weapons, you had the people. If you have the people, you don't have the weapons. And I'm going, that may have been a form of détente, that you flaunted these huge bronze sculptures all up and down your thoroughfare to say, this can become a sword of destruction or the sword of peace in this case. But anyways, that's a theory I have. I should say a hypothesis. I really need to have it proven. I've talked to a couple archaeologists and I go, this is interesting. I wouldn't even go to paper on it, but we'll find that out later.
Well, that's cool. Interesting take on history too.
Well, I'm looking at it with a sculptor's eye, which, we go to Disneyland, and I'm looking at how the handrails are made and how the exhibits are put together, and the kids are going, "Oh, I want to go to Tomorrowland and this and that," and I'm talking to the guy that collects the garbage. And I go, I want to see how this place works. So the people that work for me now, they go to these places, these amusement parks, and they're looking at the same thing. Jim, you just ruined my vacation. I'm spending the whole time looking at how they put it together.
Right.
But, I call that the busman's holiday. You go there and you're enjoying somebody else's great work.
Right. Huh. Well, I know we had one question come through chat is, do you have an Instagram account? And Eric has already put up the answer that you are on Instagram.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Do you have other social media?
Well, we have Facebook, and I'm not sure. Courtney, my assistant, does quite a bit with that, and which I'll tell you, I thought I was doing pretty good with Facebook. Now I'm realizing you have to do all these other things. It used to be wonderful if you got into the art magazine. Does anybody worry about that anymore?
Do they? I mean,
it's like if you're not on Instagram and have 10,000 followers, you're nobody. So, but that's not me bad mouthing it. It's just saying, I'm coming from a different time where if you got your name mentioned in Art in America, it was big time. So it's changed. Good, bad, who knows? What's more important is that people see and find the art. And that's all that really counts.
That's one thing I've enjoyed watching people here with the public art is they get it. They don't have to stand back and scratch their heads and wonder what it means. It's like, oh, this is cool. This is for the library. This is all about books and opening up your eyes and your mind. So, appreciate that.
40 years ago, we started a sculptors group, Tri-State Sculptors. We've had our conference several times in Charlotte and all around the Tri-State region. And one of our purposes was really about bringing art to the public. Not just us getting together and telling stories and, but the idea that art should be a part of our life. It should be a natural thing. It should be a part of our life. And what is really wonderful now, what we are seeing is like any kind of building that is going up, public and private, they go, well, are you going to have art as a part of it? And public art, inside and out. And I'm going, that's the way it should be. It should be as much a part of our art as, putting on a fresh coat of paint to make that building, renew that building. So that's part of the wonderful thing that after 40 years, we're really seeing it happen.
I know that our community was involved in some of the pulling of the book titles.
Yeah.
Was that something that was important to you as well, to involve their community input?
Oh, absolutely. when you have a little finger in it. Oh, I'll give you a good example. Where the book columns are downtown on the green,
Mhm.
there are poems throughout the park. They look like pages that flew out of a manuscript. Some are wrapped around a pole. Some are, sitting on a bench. These were all poems done by middle schoolers with a teammate with a student who had English as their second language.
Hmm.
And they wrote these fabulous poems. I mean, wow. Middle school, yes, yes. And in fact, a couple of them stolen twice. We had to go and replace it. But here's the wonderful part. That was in 2002. They are taking their children there and going, I wrote that. I was part of this. I had a chance to be involved in this. And that builds community when you have that possession of activity. That's what keeps community wonderful. That's what maintains the sculpture. I remember when it was put in, it was so great. I think it needs a cleaning. Let's see if let's have a cleaning day. And we did. These are things that evolve, that art becomes the spark. It's the spark that gets the fire going in a great way.
That's a great story. I'll have to go to the green and look more closely. I did not know that.
Well,
I lived here for a long time. Didn't know that.
Here's another caveat. We had budget for 12, but we had 14 fantastic poems.
Yeah.
And we talked to the person who was coordinator. That was through Wachovia back then. Mm-hmm. And he looked at him and he looked at him and he says, how much more will it cost to do the other two? And I gave him a price. He goes, what are we talking about? This is a couple $1,000 on a $16 million project. We'll find the money. Do it.
Oh, awesome.
And seeing that kind of commitment of, let's not let anybody out in the cold. Let's bring them all in and make it part of it. In fact, I believe the follow-up was they did I think a poetry trail in Charlotte now, or they were starting one where you would actually go to different sites and there would be poems posted in some permanent way that you could follow along. I'm not sure. I had suggested this, and I'm not sure if it actually happened or not, but I think Wachovia had worked on something like that.
That sounds familiar, and I know I've seen bits and pieces of poetry, like as mural pieces almost on buildings. So I'll have to look into that. That is very cool. Eric popped in and then he went away. I didn't.
Yeah, sorry. Hey, you guys briefly touched upon it, but Luis asked a question. He wanted to know how did you decide what books to use for the art display?
Well, we had the library patrons give us a list. And of course, there were a lot of duplications, but there were a lot of new ones. And then they went through and sorted them out and narrowed it down. I think we were narrowed to about 25, but the budget really only allowed us to do 18. So we had to eliminate some. Some of them we went, well, what's the importance of this? But the list was really important to show inclusiveness. So it's pretty diverse.
I know we started off with a huge list.
Oh,
I remember collecting all of the titles from the community members that came.
Yeah.
To me,
and then you had a bunch emailed to you also, right? People that couldn't be there and wanted to be a part of it. You're going to love this story. We're in Ireland on a trip, and this couple goes, oh, yeah, we used to live in Charlotte. We used to live off of Ray Road. I said, near the library? Oh, we went there all the time. I told them about the project. And they said, this is fantastic to hear that happened. In the middle of Ireland, you find somebody from Ray Road in Charlotte that lived in Charlotte. Yeah, that's our lives.
It's a small world. It really is.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Ah,
Hey, I've got a question.
Shoot.
Let's be a little down here. And so I kind of briefly asked this to you before we started, but was there anything in particular, maybe one or two items you could talk about, where you were in the process of making the sculpture and it just didn't work out and you had to kind of start all over again?
mm.
You won't believe it. It happens more often than you think. I got one in the yard right now that we were fabricating it, and I said, no, it's not going right. We got to start over, and we'll scrap it.
Right.
Well, we sort of scrap it because I keep it around as a reminder of what went wrong. But then I also use it as a, if you want to call it a brain teaser and how to make it right. And sometimes it's like, you look at it and you go, oh, it was too big or it was too small. You know, very often we should have doubled the size. It would have worked. And those are little reminders of, you know, why you make things, because it's not till you can have all the ideas up here, but until they come right here in front of you, you know, in those fingertips that are creating it, the reality sets in of what you're really looking for. And sometimes it's not good. And how can I say this? You know, there are thousands and thousands of Beethoven compositions, but we only hear maybe a couple dozen of them, right? Well, what about the other ones? Well, they were sort of good. And that happens all the time. I'm not saying I'm Beethoven. I'm just saying this happens with all artists. And I sort of keep them around as, you know, orphans that need to find their home and you know, where they need to find their place. Now, here's another thing. Sometimes these pieces that we do are not, you know, we just don't like the direction they're going. We'll set them aside. And 3 years later, we go, oh, remember that we had trouble with, and, you know, and we'll sit around and start thinking about, well, what if we changed it a little and added this over here, and it needs to be longer, or we had lights. And this is all part of the artistic process.
Interesting. We have another question from Carl. He asks, was the pandemic good or bad for public sculpture?
You won't believe this. It was our silver lining. People were calling up. They said, look, the art center's closed, but we're going to do the outdoor show because it's outside. Send the work. So we were shipping work, you know, to Chicago. Again, we were staying quarantined more or less. We were outside the whole time. We were very careful where we stayed, but we were shipping them to all different places. We were installing art. We were installing art in Matt Steele's piece over, oh God, I forget, there in Charlotte. I mean, we found we had all this work that became in demand because, oh, Florida was another one. They go, look, we're sort of shut down, but the streets are open. Let's put the art on the street. Let's get it going. So it was a real godsend for us that we had a lot of that happening.
That's cool.
Great.
So do you have a work in progress right now?
Yeah, we do. Well, actually, we have about 4 or 5 things. Number one is we're finishing up a screen, a stainless steel fern screen for the end of a balcony at the cancer hospital here in Greensboro. And part of it is to block off the view of a parking lot, but so you can enjoy the view of the garden that's right below you. That's number one. Number two, you know, we've been doing a lot of benches in memory of people, and we're working on one right now. We did one for David Holly. His wife passed away about 2 years ago, and she was the music director at a school here in town, and we did their song, their morning song. It was Donna Nobis Pacem, and we made a circular bench with piano keys for the bench lats, and we did the actual, music. We've done quite a few commemorative benches lately. Then we have gate jobs. We have we do functional gates. We need a good driveway gate that's really cool, and we do that. It doesn't have to be straight things. We do all kinds of whatever with it, and that's the whole idea, that it just doesn't have to be a handrail. And there again, we had a handrail job that we just finished, that they said, can you put the ferns from your gate in there, that we did 10 years ago? I said, you got it. We did it. So we're constantly looking at jobs. We have a project we're going to be doing for Nightdale. Here's another good example of the city now requests with all major projects in the town that there is a public art component. This is the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the beautiful part of it. The developers go, give us 5 names. We just got an award from Carrie for placemaking, a project we did 4 years ago. We did this with the developer. This was a huge development. They stopped it in 2008, and I thought that was the end of everything when the economy crashed. And they called me 5 years later, and they said, "You still alive?" And I go, "Yeah." I said, "Why?" They said, "Well, we're going to continue." I said, "Let's go." So they just got an award for placemaking on that. And Carrie told me something really interesting. Since they started it's part of the ordinance or I shouldn't say ordinance. It's part of the master planning of a project. They not only want to see how soil is controlled, landscaping is going to be done, the aesthetic of the project, but they want to see a public art component. Walmart has that now in their buildings when they do a building. Yeah. And that was in Winston-Salem, the first public art piece that Walmart did in front of their store. So the times are changing, and people see it. It's not a decoration. It's becoming an integral part of creating a presence. So and in this day and age, Instagram is only as good as your phone.
This is true. I got to ask you before we go to a new question. Where is this Walmart in Winston-Salem? What street
it's on Peters Creek. Peters Creek
Parkway. Okay.
Yeah. I worked on it with Brad Spencer. He did all the brick sculpture, and I did all the ironwork. And they decided to do a whole integral.
Wow.
It's about the land used to be owned by an African-American farmer that got this terrible land sold to him, and he didn't know what to do. And he says, wait a minute, I think I can make bricks. And he became the handmade brick maker of Winston-Salem. All of Old Salem is his bricks.
Oh, wow.
His granddaughter is now a city council person, and she gave the presentation on it. I'm going, wow, this is so cool, seeing the whole evolution of what's happened. Also a good lesson. You take what you got and you make it work.
Right.
And
you make lemonade, right?
Yeah. And that's always been my motto too. I mean, I have young students that come in and see my studio, go, oh my God, this is what I want to have. And I go, hey, let me tell you, it took 40 years to get to this point. Don't kid yourself.
Right.
Are you ready for that commitment? Well, they kind of think about it a little bit. But that's what it takes.
Right. Commitment. Carl asks, do you exhibit sculptures? And do you do commissions outside of North Carolina?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's really good. Actually, we showed in Australia. That was in 1988. We were part of Expo 88. We also we showed at the Venice Biennale. That was an experience. Not only did we have to crate it and put it in a container, get it across the ocean. I had to take it out of a container, put it on a truck, take it to the barge, put it on a canal boat, and
And say that place again. Where was that?
Venice, Italy.
Venice. Oh my goodness.
It was part of
Wow.
the Venice Biennale.
Wow.
I don't complain about driving up to a site and using my truck to unload stuff anymore. We show a lot of work. We have what we call temporary artwork that I make, with specific ideas in mind. And then there are shows, and this is another thing that has really prospered in the last 20 years. In this area alone, from Greensboro, there's about 35 shows that you can go to and get paid to bring artwork to show. And the cities love it because they can have public art at very reasonable rates. So they pay for an honorarium to the artist, and it could be anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000. And you're basically renting the sculpture to the city and or the community, whichever it is. And then from there, we go pick them up and take them to another show. So in about 2 weeks, we're heading to Chicago. We'll be moving 3 pieces into Chicago and taking 2 pieces out of Chicago and then going up to Rockford. So again, we have this whole other business that we do. And then we're a little bit of entrepreneurs. We just had a question asked. We were up in Kingsport doing an iron pour, and they're purchasing I do a lot of deals with people. I'd rather them have the art than say, oh, we can't afford it. I don't know. Look, we'll work out a payment plan. So Kingsport is just about ready to finish off paying one of my sculptures up there. And they said, the problem we're having is we don't know who will take care of it. And I started to think about that, and I says, oh, you want a maintenance plan, don't you? So we'll probably be getting into doing servicing. I'll be hiring new people to maintain sculpture, and that would be just painting. Well, I shouldn't say painting. It could be just cleaning, washing, waxing. But then we do restoration work too. And that's another thing that has happened in our lives. I've been doing this so long that they go, can you restore this? You made it 30 years ago. I go, yeah, sure, we can do that.
That's cool. You're
So,
full.
yeah. Huh?
You're full service.
Yes, that is our mission. And what I want is work for my workers. And what they find it is really enjoyable because so often there's a peek into the history. Artwork that was made 45 years ago, they used oxyacetylene. Well, nobody uses that anymore. They don't even teach it at the community college, except in strange places, possibly in the HVAC or in the aerospace. So we had this one sculpture that was damaged here in Greensboro, and they brought it by and they go, can you fix it? And I go, yeah, I'll give you the good news. Yes, we can fix it. Now here's the bad news. And they were hesitant about getting it fixed until they did some research and they found out how much it was worth. Anything made in the 60s and 70s has been just snatched up by collectors. Oh. I have a lot of stuff from the 60s and 70s. But it's become affordable art to collect, and people are really going after it. So
do you teach? Do you take on students at all?
Oh, no, I don't teach. I taught for 9 years, and no. We bring in people. They have to have some skills, but my workers, they work here for about 3-4 years, and they go off and do very well, either starting their own business. I'll give you a good example. David came to me. He just left his girlfriend. He had to get out of the mountains. he had one class to finish at Appalachian. I can't finish it. And he's at my door, 2:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday. I go, "Who are you?" He goes, "Oh, I met you, a year ago." He says, "Do you need any help?" And I go, "Come see me Monday. We'll talk." So he came and we put him to work, and he had done quite a bit of blacksmithing. So we had a job, and he worked on it and did a great job. And I said, "Do you want to learn more about welding?" And he goes, "Yeah." So we sent him to GTCC, which has a welding program.
Right.
And he exploded. He says, "Oh my God." I found out all about this one, how you can do it and all the parameters. And then he came back and he says, I'm quitting and I'm going to Dayton, Ohio to learn how to aerospace weld.
Wow.
And he came back to Greensboro and he got a job at HACO, which is it's the aircraft rework company here in Greensboro. And they had him making landing gear dollies.
Oh, wow.
What's a landing gear dolly?
Yeah.
But he made the first one in like a week. Actually, he made 2 of them in a week. And they said, "Where'd you learn how to do that?" So, I worked for Jim for 3 years. We do stuff like this all the time. Called sculpture. Yes, I'm sort of a teacher still.
Right.
I like to think of it in a Renaissance way. How Cellini ran his studio, how Verrocchio, that's where Michelangelo worked, and Leonardo, Raphael. You're not ready to paint the face, pants only, Well, it's like here too. No, you're not ready to weld. You just grind today. but yeah, in a lot of ways, I've really taken that as an example. In fact, when I talk about entrepreneurism, I even say, do not model it on IBM or how Microsoft does stuff or Apple. They're way too big. Those are huge. They're beyond your scope. Think of it in a Renaissance way of a small studio. Well, Verrocchio, I think, hit 75 people working for him.
Wow.
I mean, even today, that's a big studio. I mean, what's his name? Coons. I think he has 150 in New York working. That's a big studio. But I'm sure people go in there and walk out with a different understanding of creating and the business and all that. So, yeah, I don't teach anymore, but I sort of do.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, definitely. Well, we are about at our hour time limit, and let me check to see if we missed any of the questions. I think we got everything. Is there anything else that you would like to share with everyone? Any closing comments?
Well, I'm going to tell you a real good story about this Delilah situation.
Okay.
When they were filming it, they looked at the shot and they says, "Oh my God, that book title says Frederick Douglass. How appropriate." We were just talking about how important Frederick Douglass is. There were, some other scenes and all that kind of stuff. So the story behind Frederick Douglass is when we were installing it in 2002, we forgot the S, the second S. There's 2 S's in Douglass. And it was in the newspaper. Somebody came out from the Charlotte Observer. They said, "You spelled the author's name wrong." I went, "Oh my God." So here we are out there with a file and a hacksaw. Well, my son was working for me then. And I said, "Mario, we're going to fix it right now. We got all this stuff." He goes, "No, Dad, we don't have the bandsaw. We don't have the electricity." I said, "We got everything here." I handed him a hacksaw, a vise, and a file. And 45 minutes later, he had the S done, and we had it welded on. And I said, "See, you didn't know you could do it." And he goes, "This is amazing." Well, the next day, there's an article in the paper that how the artist is just flabbergasted, and he misspelled. What else is spelled wrong? there was a stream of cars that came through, and people walking around with a dictionary trying to figure out what was there. The Wachovia people was, didn't anybody proofread this? I go, no, this is turning into lemonade. Stay calm. Next thing you know, they're going, wow, what a great exhibit. What a great place. So mistakes are good. We learn. I always have my wife do my editing to check my spelling. And that's what partnership is for.
So you're positive that all the book titles and author names are correct out here at our public art?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It was triple, quadruple check.
Or should we invite everyone to come check just to be sure?
Well, now, wouldn't that be sneaky? Say, I think there's a misspelling. Can anybody find it? Oh, my God. What a way to get people there. It'd be a literary treasure hunt, right?
Right, exactly right. Well, this has been fun. Thank you for logging in with us and answering everyone's questions and having such a great time with us. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jim.
This has been a real pleasure and an honor. Too bad we can't do this in person, but I
tell you, one of these days when everything is back to normal, we're going to have a big party here at the library.
Yeah, under the open book.
Yes, everything's included inside and outside.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. This has been wonderful. I see we're about a minute over, so
no worries. Jim, again, thank you so much. And everyone else joining us today, thank you so much for attending. If you liked this program and wanted to see more like it, please visit our website at cmlibrary.org/calendar. Thanks again. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.